All right,
Welcome in to the Black and Gold Breakdown, talking everything Pittsburgh Steelers and NFL Draft Day 2 coming to an end. The Steelers taking running back Kaleb Johnson out of Iowa with their third-round pick. I love the pick. Expected them to take a running back in the third round, and they did it. I didn't think Kaleb Johnson was going to be available. I thought that he was going to be a guy that went in the second round. Obviously, he was still available, and the Steelers jumped on that and took him with the 83rd overall pick, and now have a guy who might be the de facto RB1, even over Jaylen Warren. So, I mean, time will tell to come with that. But if you guys are just joining, please subscribe to the channel, talking all things Pittsburgh Steelers, and not just for the Black and Gold Breakdown, but for my national pump fake or podcast, The Pump Fake. As you can tell, it's been a very long night of draft coverage for me. If you want to be part of the conversation, leave a comment, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter. We'll get you in as part of the conversation. So my immediate thoughts on the Steelers drafting Kaleb Johnson. I like the pick. For those who don't know, Kaleb Johnson, consensus All-American, led the Big Ten in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns this past year. Really good running back who fits Arthur Smith's wide zone scheme. Love the pick as a whole. And I think for what the Steelers want to do offensively, having him fall to 83 was a nice little gift for the Steelers. I had been mocking DJ Giddens, the running back out of Kansas State, to Pittsburgh. But again, I don't think that Pittsburgh necessarily expected Kaleb Johnson to be there, or I don't think that many of us in the media expected Kaleb Johnson to be there, but here we are, him falling to the third round, and the Steelers snap him up. And not for nothing, Kaleb Johnson, who does he train with? Aaron Rodgers. So that is another little, tea leaf to read there, another, connective dot when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. And along with that, Art Rooney, talking to Steelers Nation Radio during draft coverage and whatnot, said Aaron wants to come to Pittsburgh. Rap Sheet also reported it on an NFL Network, saying that Aaron Rodgers wants to go to the Steelers and that an announcement could come soon. So for all intents and purposes, while it's not necessarily news, it's been expected for a while that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Steeler, but it looks like we are getting closer to that becoming official. But again, just another little connective dot there with Kaleb Johnson being the pick for the Steelers at running back. And yes, he trains with Aaron Rodgers. So for those who want to make that connection there, it is one that can certainly be made. A few comments already. Let's dive into it. Shady says the Steelers are idiots. Take Shedeur and move on. Well, here's the thing. And, I put NFL Day 2 reactions in here because I wanted to talk about the Shedeur slide, because this is, Mike Greenberg said, unprecedented. I'd say that's a fair word. I mean, this is a guy who was at one point, mocked to go by a lot of people in the top 10, top 5. And then by the end of the mock draft process, once we got to the first round, the latest anybody had him going was 21 to the Steelers. He was absolutely expected to be a first round pick. It was a shock when he made it out of the first round. It was an incredible shock when he made it out of the second round. And now we are going into day 3 of the draft. Shador Sanders is still on the board, which tells us this has much more to do with outside factors than football. Because whatever you want to say about Shedeur, I think at minimum he was the second best quarterback in this class. And so having him fall this far, it clearly isn't just about the stuff on the field. Or I should say, it's not about anything on the field. It has everything to do with the stuff off the field. And I know a lot of Steelers fans were bummed when they didn't take him at 21. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who were surprised, like myself, when they didn't take him at 83. Not necessarily angry about it. I love the Kaleb Johnson pick. But all 32 teams really telling you how they feel about him. And I think that perhaps the lesson learned in this year's draft, everybody, is, the things that you do off the field really matter, and how you act really matters when it comes to this process. This is what happens when you publicly call out teammates. This is what happens when, in post-game press conferences, when you play poorly and you're asked about, the play of another quarterback, blaming your offensive line for your poor play. This is what happens when, a story comes out last year about, a former Colorado player discussing how he was treated by Deion Sanders. And then when you tweet the article saying, oh, he must have been pretty bad, I don't even remember him. Stuff like that matters. Like, it costs $0 to not be a total asshole. Really. Like, it's not difficult to just not be mean. And when you grow up privileged and you grow up with wealth, sometimes those things get kind of swept under the rug. And obviously I didn't grow up with Shedeur Sanders. I don't know what it was like, but it's easy to start making those connective dots when he slides to the fourth round. And, it's widely reported that a lot of teams didn't really like how he interviewed or how he behaved. So that's the lesson to be learned here. Robert says, I love the pick, but I'm also shocked that Shedeur is still there. You think he's there tomorrow do you think he's here tomorrow for the Steelers? I mean, if he's there at 123, I'd be shocked if they didn't take him, but I was also surprised they didn't take him at 83. So I think that's where they're picking tomorrow, right? It's either 123 or 121. I can't remember. So, I mean, if he's there, maybe. I was hopeful that Jalen Milroe would fall to the Steelers in the fourth round and they would take Jalen Milroe. Obviously, he goes to Seattle, which interesting pick for the Seahawks. I mean, obviously, they weren't going to do it in, round 1 or 2. They just paid Sam Darnold a 3-year contract worth over $40 million a year, or hovering around $40 million a year. I don't think it was quite 40. It was like 37, somewhere in that range. 3 years for like 111. Regardless. And they did bring back Drew Lock as well. So I think Jalen Milroe going to go into this process as a third quarterback. And I think for Seattle, you're hopeful that Sam Darnold plays well, so you don't have to worry about the other quarterbacks and stays healthy. But if he doesn't play well, you got a couple insurance policies there in Drew Lock and Jalen Milroe that you can throw in the field and at least see if there's anything there. More so with Milroe. I mean, we kind of know what Drew Lock is at this point. So I was hoping that Milroe would be there for the Steelers in the fourth round, but obviously that didn't happen. And honestly, I would have been okay if they took him in the third round, considering, he went to Seattle in the third round. So I was more hopeful for Milroe than anything, but yes, very surprised that Shedeur is still there. Glad they're passing on Sanders. I don't think that dude is worth it till the 5th. I don't know where he's going to go, but the NFL draft on day 3 just became, people are going to watch it regardless. But the fact that he's still on the board, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people tuning in who maybe wouldn't have originally to see where this guy goes. Like, this is quite the slide that we haven't seen maybe ever, This is a guy, again, who was projected to go 21 in the first round at the latest. And now falling all the way to the fourth round. I mean, there's certainly something to be said about that. And again, a lot of this, if I had to guess, comes back to off the field stuff much more than anything on the field. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he was at worst the second best quarterback in this class behind Cam Ward. And the cherry on top of all of this was the Cleveland Browns selecting Dillon Gabriel before Shador Sanders gets taken. So let's name all the quarterbacks real quick that have been taken. That's been Cam Ward, obviously, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe, and Dillon Gabriel, I believe, are the five quarterbacks that have been taken so far. I don't think I missed one. So those are 5 quarterbacks. So Shador Sanders going to be the 6th quarterback taken. Can you imagine if we see like Will Howard or Kyle McCord get drafted before him? Like, there's going to be some real interesting conversations to be had if that does happen. Aiden says 32 teams passed on Sanders 3 rounds in a row. Says something. What a terrible quarterback class as well. Yes, very much agree. Very much agree. Shady adds, I don't mind the pick at all after talking about Shedeur. Yeah, I'm very excited about the Kaleb Johnson pick. Obviously, as a Steelers show, this is what we came to talk about. But at the same time, there's still a chance that Shedeur Sanders ends up being a Steeler by the end of tomorrow. So, I mean, it's worth talking about. But very excited about the Kaleb Johnson pick. And again, if you want to be part of the conversation, whether you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, you can leave a comment and we'll get you get your thoughts in here. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, not just for the Steelers Black and Gold breakdown shows, but also my national podcast, The Pump Fake, which was named a top 80 sports podcast by Million Podcasts. So that's very nice. If you need a reason to go, subscribe and listen to it, watch it, whatever you do. That is the best advertisement I can give. I don't know how they do the criteria to rank those podcasts, but they put mine on it, and I'm very grateful for it. If admin like it, I like it. Yeah, I think that a lot of people are in consensus saying, okay, good pick. And again, if you don't know, Kaleb Johnson, consensus All-American running back, led the Big Ten in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns last year. Really good running back, and I think he's going to be a really good fit with the Steelers. I think he's going to be the starter sooner than later. Just considering the style of runner that he is, and I think he's a little bit better of a fit as a starter or getting the majority of the carries compared to Jaylen Warren. And I think that Jaylen Warren, like, good running back, but I think he is a better fit, not having a small role by any means, but if the workload is, say, 55 to 45 in terms of splitting up the carries. But we're certainly going to see a good, healthy dose of both Kaleb Johnson and Jaylen Warren. So excited about that. And again, like I pointed out at the top of the show, shout out to Blitzberg for pointing this out on Twitter. Who does Kaleb Johnson train with, or who has he been training with recently? Aaron Rodgers. So there's more connective tissue there. And for those who didn't see anything on Aaron Rodgers today, Steelers president Art Rooney II, talking to Steelers Nation Radio during the draft, said Aaron wants to come to Pittsburgh. Ian Rappaport reiterated that on NFL Network, saying Aaron Rodgers, wants to come to Pittsburgh, reportedly could hear an announcement very soon. So I know that we've been hearing that for the last month and whatnot, so it's not necessarily news per se, but things are starting to it feels like getting much closer to that whole saga finally being done as we get closer to mini camp. So all these, connective tissues and tea leaves, you can read them, you can connect them. Aaron Rodgers, like many of us have thought for the last month or so, very, very likely going to be a Steeler. And by the way, look, I can be talked into an offense for a year with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, Kaleb Johnson and Jaylen Warren behind him, and DK Metcalf, George Pickens, Calvin Austin / Roman Wilson, Pat Freiermuth at tight end. I can be talked into that offense. Don't think it's going to be a top 10 unit. Top 15, maybe. You can talk me into that. So when it comes to bringing in Aaron Rodgers, I know a lot of people have been, against it. I've been feels like in the minority of people who say, actually, I'd like it. He's an upgrade over anything that they had last year. Still threw almost 30 touchdowns last year. Like, the Jets weren't great, but he was still fine. Still, in terms of, top 32 quarterbacks, he's still in the upper half of that. So I'm all for bringing in Aaron Rodgers. I just wish that it didn't take this long, and I wish that it would just get announced already. But I'm all for it. I'm ready to see it happen. Got a few more comments in here. Shady says, I don't like the Harmon pick. You're gonna. I can promise you that. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing Derek Harmon on the field. Incredible versatility, both as a run stopper and a pass rusher. He's going to be a very good player. I know it's not the sexy pick. And, when it comes to the draft, like if your team doesn't take, a receiver or, a cornerback maybe, or a running back, like it's hard to get excited about a not sexy position. Derek Harmon's going to be very good. So, again, I know it's not the sexy pick and you may not like it right now because it wasn't anything flashy, but he's going to be very good. Aiden adds, great running back defensive tackle class. Yeah, very deep at both positions. We saw, by the way, I hate to say it, but the Cleveland Browns have had a great draft. Quinshon Judkins, the running back from Ohio State, part of theirs. They also drafted Mason Graham. Carson Schwessinger. I probably just butchered the pronunciation of his last name. But they also drafted Harold Fannin, arguably the best tight end in college football outside of Tyler Warren last year. Some even ranked him above Tyler Warren. He led the entirety of college football in both receptions and receiving yards last year at tight end out of Bowling Green State. So the Browns have been killing this draft. And then the Baltimore Ravens doing what the Baltimore Ravens do. They take Malachi Starks in the first round, great pick. And then Mike Green falls all the way to them, who they then take. So The Ravens are also having a really good draft. Cincinnati, I wouldn't call their draft class great. I wouldn't say it's abysmal, but it's nothing that like I'm writing home about. If you watch AFC North Talk, you know that one of my AFC North Talk co-hosts, Ace, who is our Bengals guy for the show, was not happy about the Shamar Stewart pick. So I'd say right now the Steelers have the third best draft in the AFC North. Still, like I'm still happy with the draft so far. I just happen to like the Browns and Ravens drafts a little bit more. But still, all three of the top drafts in the AFC North have been very, very good. So I'm excited to see all these guys on the field. Angry as a Steelers fan to see the Ravens doing so well, but love Malachi Starks, and I think that Mike Green's going to do good things there. Chase says, really hoping for Royals or Amenor next. Maybe would even try to gain an extra pick for Sanders. So Jalen Royals, good receiver out of Utah State. Elic Amenor, I think he would fit what the Steelers do. If they wanted to take a guy who could potentially be that next wide receiver too, opposite of DK when George inevitably leaves after this year. By the way, I know a lot of people watching over the last week where, we talked about the George Pickens trade rumors. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, at least not during the draft. And so, I know I said earlier in the week, if he doesn't get traded during the draft, that doesn't mean that they won't trade him. I might walk that back a little bit and say that if they don't trade him during the draft, I probably wouldn't expect them to do it this year unless they get a big deal at the trade deadline. But that'll be far into, October. So I know a lot of people are going to be happy to keep George. I'm not necessarily unhappy that George is still there. I was just expecting them to move him. Obviously still could happen, but I'm leaning toward it's probably not going to happen compared to a few days ago when it looked like it might. So, but Elic Amenor, I think he would be a really good Pickens replacement to draft this year. And then in 2026, have him be the wide receiver 2 opposite of Metcalf. Better route runner than Pickens is in terms of just a more complete route tree. Also just really good at getting off the line of scrimmage, can win at all 3 levels, and a really good run blocker. So I think overall, if they want to find like a Pickens replacement for 2026, but somebody that can also contribute this year, Elic Amenor is the way to go. I'm surprised that he's still available. I thought that he would be a guy that went round 2 or round 3, obviously still on the board. But I'm a big Elic Amenor guy, and I hope I might be right there with you. If they took him at 123, I'd be ecstatic. Elise says, as long as they have Kenny Pickett running that ship, the Browns is the Browns. I really don't think Kenny Pickett's going to start. I think if they're done adding quarterbacks, I think it'll be Flacco. Kenny Pickett may start at some point, especially if Flacco starts playing poorly. They just added Dylan Gabriel like we talked about, but still a possibility that they trade for Kirk Cousins. So we'll see what happens on that front. I'm with you, though. I mean, I would love to see Kenny Pickett start for the Browns. I think a lot of us would. But if I had to guess if it's going to happen, I would probably lean no. Love dogs. The Atlanta Falcons are having a good draft by their standards. I don't know what to do with myself. I got to tell you, man, I don't think the Falcons are having a great draft. Now, they did make a couple picks, or they had at least one pick on day 2 that I liked, and I thought I made note of it. But so while I get that pulled up, let me kind of dunk on them real quick and say I have no idea what the hell they were thinking with that James Pierce trade. Giving up a future first-round pick to get up to 26 to take James Pierce Jr., that didn't make any sort of sense to me. And they've kind of been getting canned for it all day. But that was a weird trade for me. And I was very surprised that they did that. So let me look at the Falcons real quick to give them love for a pick that they did make on day 2, because they did make a pick where I was like, all right, that's a good pick. If I can find it, I promise I will be nice to the Falcons real quick. Oh, where is it? I know this is a Steelers show, and a lot of you are saying shut the hell up about the Falcons, but Xavier Watts, that's who it was, the Notre Dame safety. That's a good pick. Good value to get him at the end of the 3rd round. I think he's going to be very good. So that was a good pick. And look, Jalen Walker, the linebacker out of Georgia, very well could be a good player. He was the consensus top linebacker outside of Jihad Campbell in this class, kind of alternated between, depending on who you asked. And look, got the Falcons helmet right there. So outside of the weird James Pierce trade where you sent away your 2026 first round pick, they've had a fine draft, but that, giving up a first round pick, that's pretty rough. But again, if you have any sort of draft comments or Steelers comments or anything that you want to talk about, leave a comment and we'll get you in here. And look, if you're watching for the first time and you're not already subscribed, please be sure to do that. It helps me out, helps the channel out, and it just makes my little heart happy. Want as many people in here during these live streams as possible. And throughout the off season, again, if you're new here, try to do at least 1 or 2 black and gold breakdowns per week. I do at least one of my national podcasts, the Pump Fake, per week. A little bit quieter during the off season for the Pump Fake, but and black and gold breakdown for that matter. And once we get closer to the regular season, that's when things really start ramping up. So please subscribe. That's all I ask. And if you enjoy what I do here and you want to read all my written work, whether it be at the Sporting News or USA Today, you can go do that as well. All of my Steelers written coverage over at Behind the Steel Curtain for SB Nation. So if you want to support me, that's how you can do it. And also follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL. There's my personal plug. So we'll keep this thing rolling. Again, if you want to be part of the conversation, leave a comment. I am very warm and I cannot wait to take a shower. I know I'm dressed like a manager at a Nordstrom right now, so that's probably not doing me any favors. But very, very warm right now. Frank says 2 more bigs. Can you elaborate, Frank? I don't necessarily know what you're talking about at the moment right now. But we can talk about some other things going on around the NFL draft on day 2 outside of the Steelers. We talked about the Shedeur Sanders slide. Again, like all of you, I'm very intrigued to see how that ends. Can you imagine if he gets to the 5th round? He's not going to go undrafted like that. That would be crazy. But if he gets to the 5th round, people are going to really start having that conversation. Like, oh my God, is he going to go undrafted? He's not going to go undrafted. But what if he does? Would be crazy. Aiden chimes in and says, Jags giving up next year's picks to the Browns killed me. Browns organization is so bad, they'll waste all these picks. Again, I love what the Browns have been doing. Like, I know as a Steelers fan, that kills me to say a little bit, but the Browns have had a tremendous draft so far. And look, I understand that they traded away from getting Travis Hunter, and that was, again, the flashy pick that Browns fans really wanted. The Jags vastly overpaid. You gave up next year's first-round pick and the 36th overall pick to move up 3 spots to take Travis Hunter. He better be damn good. That's all I'll say about it. He better be an all-pro, because that was a vast overpay. Now the Browns, who are going to all but certainly be quarterback hunting next offseason, have multiple first-round picks to potentially trade up for a guy if they aren't in the position that they want to take one. So the Browns have had a tremendous draft, both in terms of getting really good players and gearing up for chasing a quarterback in next year's draft with the capital that they have. So really impressed by what the Browns have done. And, again, as a Steelers fan, that's kind of annoying because the Steelers are going to be quarterback hunting next year. And it just so happens that one of those top quarterback prospects is from the Ohio area. And the last time that we were here in that type of situation, who the Steelers landed, and who the Browns forever regretted not taking. And for those of you who don't know, Drew Aller is from Ohio. So, a Penn State quarterback from Ohio with the Steelers and Browns both needing a quarterback next year. That is going to be a storyline that we watch for the next year, depending on how Drew Aller plays. But again, a guy who's projected to be a first-round quarterback. So there's a lot of things to monitor. Again, if you're a Steelers fan, you're monitoring what the Browns are doing, because they're going to be in a very similar boat to you next offseason, trying to get a quarterback in the draft. So again, as a Steelers fan, it killed me that the Browns made that trade with the Jaguars, because now they have really good capital to move up and get a guy that they want. And it's certainly possible that they don't want to pass on the Ohio boy again and let the Steelers get him and risk Drew Aller being now look, I'm a Penn State guy. I love Drew Aller. He's not going to be Ben Roethlisberger, but for lack of a better term, if he does pan out to be the Steelers franchise quarterback, then the whole narrative is going to be, oh my goodness, we passed on another Ohio quarterback and he's beating our butts again. Like, this is the same cycle that we've put ourselves in. So if they love Drew Aller, they are going to be in prime position to take him with all the draft capital that they have. So I hate it, but the Browns have had a really, really nice draft. Browns won that trade so well. Every team should have traded back with all their holes. Yeah, I agree. The Raiders have traded back a bunch. The Raiders have been a team that have traded back a whole lot. Again, rightfully so. That's a team that's, like trying to compete, but also knows that they have a lot of holes to fill. And it's a weird spot to be in when you're trying to get better and compete now, but also recognize that you have the holes. But you hire Pete Carroll, you trade for Geno Smith, and you draft Ashton Jency to go along with Brock Bowers offensively. You're not, playing for 2026. You're playing to get into the playoffs this year. So smart on them for trading back and getting a few additional picks. They took 2 tackles at the end of the 3rd round. They took one out of Texas Tech, and they took one out of William and Mary. Both their names are escaping me right now. But they had like consecutive picks, and they used both of them on tackles. So, I think the Raiders have done a good job of trying to get as much talent as they possibly can with the picks that they have. And, moving back as much as they have it's been a pretty good strategy. But again, the Pittsburgh Steelers drafting Iowa running back Kaleb Johnson. Again, a guy who I think is going to be starting sooner than later, or at least splitting carries with Jaylen Warren. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he fits in the Arthur Smith offense. I think he's going to be a very good fit. But I'm very happy about the pick. And if you want to read up on all of the Steelers draft coverage over at Behind the Steel Curtain, me and the staff are doing a lot of really good draft work, and I'm really happy with all the work that the staff has done over the past, really throughout this entire draft process. So, my guys, Rylan and Ryan Parrish, Mike Nicastro, Alex Hangsler, all done really good work. So go and read everything going on up Behind the Steel Curtain. Chase says, who do you think, if we go defensive tackle again, the pick would be? I don't think they'll go defensive tackle again. I think getting one right now is enough. And they've also signed like 3 this offseason. So I don't think it'll be a defensive tackle again. At least not in the 4th round. They might take one day or, 6th, 7th round, maybe. I don't think it'll be another defensive tackle in round 4. If I had to guess what the pick's going to be in round 4, I would go either, if Shedor's there, I would guess they would do it then. Or if there's a receiver there that they really like who could potentially step into a starting role in 2026, then perhaps they go that route. But I think it would be another offensive. Or, safety is a position to watch for them to take. Let's see, let's see what safeties are still available right now, because that is one that you could watch for. Lathan Ransom out of Ohio State is a name to watch. Because again, that's a team that needs a safety. Minkah Fitzpatrick getting older, Sean Elliott entering the final year of his deal. So I would keep an eye on safety being the pick. RJ Mickens out of Clemson. Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma. Sebastian Castro out of Iowa. Jalen Reed out of Penn State, potentially being a 6th round pick for them. So multiple safeties that could end up being Steelers, because that is a position that will quickly become a need here after 2025. So get ahead of the issue, maybe draft a guy on day 3. I'm lower on wide receiver. Can we get Shedeur and Justin Whaley, possibly Jalen Reed? Like I said, there's a good chance that Shedeur could be there at 123, because let's look at the draft positioning real quick, barring any sort of trade-ups, which is possible that somebody trades up for him. But really, I mean, it's the same conversations we've been having, right? The Titans, they're not going to take him. The Jaguars aren't going to take him. The Giants aren't going to take him. Patriots aren't going to take him. The Jaguars pick again. The Raiders, they've passed on him so many times, I think that they just might be out. But it's possible that they take him at 108. Bears aren't taking him. Jets probably wouldn't take him, right? Eagles, no. Saints, perhaps. But again, they've also passed on him a lot. And they took Tyler Shuck. So I think that they're out. The 49ers, that would be something. If the 49ers took him, round 4, pick 113, I think that would be something to watch. Now, look, maybe they are going to pay Brock Purdy. I don't think they should. But I think 49ers taking Shedeur, that could be something to watch. So let's keep going down the list. Carolina, no. Arizona, I don't think so. I think Kyler's their guy. I expect more from Kyler, but I think at this point, it's just what he is. He's like the 16th best quarterback in football. And they're kind of just, I don't want to say stuck with him because you can certainly do worse, but you can also do much better. The Dolphins would be very funny because after all of the extensions they did last year, they extended Jalen Ramsey last year and they're going to trade him. Tyreek Hill, probably going to trade him. And they extended Tua. And if they draft Shador Sanders, the writing wouldn't necessarily be on the wall, quote unquote, but it would be at the very least kind of interesting. The Colts, it's possible. They already have Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones in the room. I don't know if you want to add Shador Sanders and all the chaos that comes with him to that. Atlanta, no. Cincinnati, no. Tennessee, no. Tampa Bay, no. Carolina, no. And Pittsburgh. So really, again, unless a team trades up, which, I mean, Cleveland could, but they took Dylan Gabriel, so I think that's probably a no. The Rams are an interesting team to watch if they wanted to move up. I'm trying to see what picks they would have to really even do that. I mean, the Rams don't really have any sort of ammunition to move up, so I think that the Rams are going to have to hope that he just falls to them if they want him. But, I mean, between from the start of round 4 up until the Pittsburgh Steelers pick at 123, though there's, maybe 2 teams. Again, when I say the 49ers, I think that that's even a little bit of a stretch. When I say the Dolphins, that's a large stretch. So the Raiders are really the only team at 108 that I would say would risk the Steelers not being able to draft Shedeur. So if he's there, maybe they take him. But a lot of people said that about 21. A lot of people said that about 83. And they went with Derek Harmon and Kaleb Johnson. Harmon won't be Aaron Donald. He's over. Well, again, if your bar is Aaron Donald, of course, everybody's going to fall short of that. I liked Derek Harmon better than Walter Nolan, personally. I think Walter Nolan will do good in a Jonathan Gannon defense in Arizona, though. I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. And Jonathan Gannon seemed very, very excited. But I think at that point, it's splitting hairs. Both of them are really good prospects, and I think both of them will be pretty good. But an eventful night 2 with one of the, not hyperbole, one of the craziest slides in NFL draft history, where Shador Sanders projected to go at minimum in the top 25. And some people's best quarterback in this draft class is still available going into round 4. Haven't quite seen anything like that in a long time. AW says, question, with Shedeur sliding, if you were Juju Lewis, would you consider leaving Colorado because it would hurt his NFL chances? No, man, it doesn't have anything to do with Colorado. It has everything to do with Dion being Shador's dad, being part of it, and I would assume how he interviewed and just things that he's done throughout this process, during the season, publicly calling out teammates for his poor play. Even if the offensive line was bad, which the offensive line wasn't very good, as a quarterback, though, man, you're the leader of the team. You're the guy that everybody looks to. When you're publicly calling out your guys, people notice that. And again, a lot of that combined with probable bad interviews would be my guess. I don't think it has anything to do with Colorado. I mean, Travis Hunter was the second overall pick. It has nothing to do with Colorado. It has everything to do with Dion being Shador's dad and just how Shedeur acts would be my guess. And again, I don't know Shedeur at all. I'm just, connecting these very easily connected dots as to why he's fallen so far. So no, it doesn't have anything to do with Colorado. It has everything to do with, similar to a Lonzo Ball situation, to a crazy extreme, right? Where LeVar Ball was like insane, but like Lonzo was, a nice buttoned up, well-spoken guy. It still is. I think the better comparison would be like a LaMelo Ball. He's a little bit more outlandish and outspoken. But even then, that didn't interfere with the Charlotte Hornets taking him. So I don't think it has anything to do with Colorado. It has everything to do with Dion being Shedor's dad and how Shedor acts. But I think it's a pretty good place to put a bow on this. I've still got a lot of written coverage to do for the morning. So, go read all of that. Sporting News, USA Today, Behind the Steel Curtain. Wherever football is written about, I'm probably working for them. So make sure you go and do that and keep a roof over my head. Please and thank you. But again, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, be sure to do that as well for more Black and Gold Breakdown, the Pump Fake, and a bunch of other stuff that's coming. Watch the Tape is coming back, and we're going to try to get a few players to come on the channel and watch the tape with us, break down a few of their best plays. I have one specific guy in mind right now that we're going to try to set something up very soon, so I'm looking forward to that. Top 10 show I'm going to bring back as well, where I just go through on a video essay-esque show with, a bunch of videos and, just visuals ranking top 10 NFL categories. So that'll be coming back as well. So be sure to subscribe for all of that. And of course, the Black and Gold Breakdown live streams and shows and every episode of my podcast, the Pump Fake, streaming on the channel as well as wherever you get your podcasts. So yeah, big day tomorrow, day 3 of the draft. Once it's done, we'll be back here to recap it, see what the Steelers end up doing, to talk about it all. And look, maybe if they draft Shedeur in the 4th round, I might just hop on right then and there to talk about it. So regardless, tomorrow we'll be back with another Black and Gold Breakdown. Right now it is 12:09 a.m. Eastern time. We got a few hundred people watching live. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I will appreciate you even more if you subscribe. So please be sure to do that. And turn on the notifications so you know when we go live tomorrow to talk about day 3 and wrap up the NFL draft. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Have a great night. Have a safe night. I will talk to you all tomorrow right here on the channel and on the Black and Gold Breakdown. Have a good night. Talk soon.